Welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name's Ant McKenna. I'm from the Australian Live Music Business Council. This is a great opportunity for us to talk about venues, starting up a grassroots live music venue. We've got an amazing panel, lots to get through. Very quickly, just wanted to acknowledge the traditional owners. We're on Gubbi Gubbi or Cubbi Cubbi country here in Noosa. I grew up on Wurundjeri country in eastern Victoria, but also live on Cubbi Cubbi country now, and just pay my respects to all of those traditional owners and of all the lands that we're each on, and elders past and present. Very quickly, wanted to flag superannuation is a massive topic at the moment, and the ALMBC is running a Q&A session next Monday night if you're interested. Lots more coming up that the ALMBC is doing. We've got a session in Canberra coming up, the Indicon breakfast the morning after the Air Awards in Adelaide, and also some great fun at WAMCon and Big Sound coming up as well. But enough of that, let's get straight into it. We're still waiting for one or two speakers to jump on, but let us go, and I will introduce you right away to Bron Adams, the amazing Bron Adams from Morph Consulting. Bron has been really playing a leadership role in the engagement between the music industry and local government for many years, and has an incredible, diverse background in planning and policy and development. And we're stoked to have Bron here facilitating this session, and I'll hand it over to Bron now. Welcome, Bron.
Thanks, Ant. I do have to firstly acknowledge the traditional owners as well, the Cubbi Cubbi people that I also do most of my work on here on the coast. But I also want to acknowledge that doing one of these online panels is a little awkward. We've all met and chatted on the phone, and now we're all just kind of staring at screens to one another. So just, acknowledging that, and that it can be a little bit awkward for everyone. But today is pretty special. We've got a massive panel. We're bringing together venue operators from across Australia to have a conversation about what it really takes to establish, operate and sustain grassroots live music venues in 2026 and beyond. Every venue represented today is very different. They're at different stages of their journey. They operate in different markets and regulatory environments, and they've developed very different business models in response to changing consumer expectations and economic conditions. That's what makes this conversation so valuable in this moment. We often talk about live music through the lens of artists and audiences, but venues are the critical infrastructure that connects the two, and we really don't give them enough care. It's where artists build careers, communities come together, and local economies come alive. Behind every successful venue, though, is an enormous amount of work, and this is what we're going to hear about today, as well as navigating planning systems, development approvals, building codes, liquor licensing, commercial realities, and changing audience behaviour. No two states are the same, as I'm sure you're all aware, and we'll hear about some of the reforms making a positive difference around the country. Both special entertainment precincts, but also broader planning, regulatory and policy changes that are creating better conditions for live music. Equally, we're going to hear from people who have backed themselves, not waited for government, invested in their communities and found ways to make live music work despite the challenges. But most importantly, today is about solutions. It's about the innovation happening across the sector and the practical ways venue operators are staying viable, resilient and agile. Whether it's diversifying programming, creating new venue streams, building loyal local audiences, which has been one of the biggest things that I've been hearing from everyone, collaborating with others, or simply rethinking what a live music venue looks like. There's a huge amount for us to learn from in this room. And has JC joined us?
Yes, I'm here, Ron. Thank you.
And we're also very fortunate to have JC with us for the first part of the session before he heads off to an Australian live music venue group board meeting. John brings a unique perspective as both a venue operator and, as you know, Queensland Nighttime Economy Commissioner. So we'll begin by hearing what he's seen on the ground, from changing audience behaviours and business models through to broader reforms and opportunities for Queensland's live music sector. So let's get started. So John, JC, feels funny calling you John. Starting as a venue operator, what changes are you seeing in audience behaviour and how the Triffid and the Fort are adapting?
Yeah, thanks, Bron, and hello, everyone. Sorry I was a couple minutes late. I think everyone on this call knows what the challenges are. I think, with the habits and the behaviour of people going to see live music has definitely changed since, obviously, before COVID, in my mind. We know that whether the younger generation or just everyone, we know they're not drinking as much at the bar, they're not spending as much on premise as they once did. Also, I think there's been a shift recently that I think is a challenge that I haven't really had many people talk about, is that the length of shows. I think, when we were doing shows, we'd have a main band and two support acts. These days, it's mainly a main band and maybe a support act. And with the Fortitude musical, I've even seen with, might be a big international act, they're not even doing support acts. So I think that's a real pressure on the cycle of grassroots music. And I think for me, as a music fan, I always wanted to go, if I wasn't getting there before to see the full second support band, I'd be definitely there for over half it, because I always trusted that the main act always took it on to make sure that the support act was a strong act and had a good night. I think we've seen that change, and I think, I've seen artists post set times. I think that puts pressure on the venues again because they rock in 10 minutes before the show. And I think that's been lost, that what I saw, 10 years ago. They're the challenges. And I think, we all know, I think what COVID taught me was that we weren't really organised as an industry. I think we saw in Queensland 50,000 people sitting at Suncorp Stadium in the middle of COVID when we had 15% capacity. I think it highlighted to me that we weren't organised. I think that's where we have, and this is what discussions like this are really important. I think that's where we have to head, Bron. That's where the opportunity is, working together and understanding and being a force. Because when that showed us we weren't a force to be reckoned with, and I think that's something we need to work on. To get out of what is going on. It's a long road ahead, I think, but only we help each other.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's where the ALMBC was formed, during COVID. But I know that you've been looking at some other Queensland-based grassroots music sector groups forming. Do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah, sure. With the commissioner role had as well, I sort of thought, and part of the Australian Music Venue Foundation and a former member of Q Music, I sort of felt like I was hearing these great things in New South Wales going on and hearing some reform work. And I sort of felt Queensland had run the risk of being left behind. And I thought, the only people who can change this is us. We're in control of our destiny. And as Queenslanders, we need to make sure that we're not being left behind, because we are losing venues. We've got the worst, I think we've got the worst rate of venues collapsing in the country. So to me, it showed a real highlight. It highlighted how important it is we get together and honestly fix it. Throw ideas around. There's been a lot of talk and discussions, but I think it's time a few key people in the industry who come from across the country. We can learn from other jurisdictions, sit in a room and work out. Like that comes from ticketing, venue operators, people in different industries. Who all make part of our industry, come together and work together and hopefully be that one voice that we can take. With whether it be Q Music and Queensland Touring Festival, take to the state government saying, this is our recommendations, listen to us, this is what we need to do. Because sometimes I find there's too many voices I don't know to listen to, so they stop listening altogether. I think that's really important that we get that one angle going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've spent the last 18 months, listening to industry and communities across the state. What are some of the most, important kind of opportunities that you see emerging and those key themes?
I think going back to my Queensland hat, I think, we all know that there's sound issues and DA issues and all that. We can work on that. I think if you look at the opportunities, particularly for Queensland, having 5 major centres north of Brisbane, when you leave Brisbane, you've got a centre every 3 or 4 hours. I think in the 80s and 90s, and probably possibly in the early 2000s, there was a real strong touring circuit. As I said, these cities and communities are 3 or 4 hours apart, and they're really good fun to tour. I've done it. You just go hopping up to Cairns and you fly home, and you've done 10 dates, or 7, 8 dates. I'm seeing bands like play Fortitude Music Hall, then that's it. They fly home, and I'm thinking, why didn't they do a Sunshine Coast? Why didn't they do a Townsville or Cairns? So I think Queensland's in a great position to open up that touring circuit, and all sorts of size, smaller venues and larger venues as well. So, and develop that ecosystem that once belonged there. There was a 1,200 cap room in every major centre north of Brisbane, back in the 90s. So, yeah, I think there's an opportunity. We just got to tell people about it. I think bands need to find new ways to make revenue as well. I think with the demise of the festival market, shows that they really probably have to get in the car and tour and do the work, instead of doing one festival that sort of incorporates 4 hours around the city, or the centre. So I think there's an opportunity. It's just going to take a bit of work and convincing, the industry that this is what we need to do now.
Yeah, and you released Queensland on Tour last September.
Mm.
Can you just talk a little bit about that and how that's all developing?
Yeah, Queensland Tour was a sort of a book, online portal we set up for all venues to be able to plug into, and then the managers can plug into an agent, and then look at how much fuel do you need, like how far is the next gig, or all these sorts of things. I remember when this sort of the idea came about because I remember playing in the band, and Something for Kate was supporting, and we were playing in Brisbane. They flew to Sunshine Coast. It's it's 20 minutes in the air. It's an hour on the drive. So to me, it just represented that not all the industry knew what Queensland was about. And I think we've got to make sure that the Queensland on Tour is about opening up Queensland again, and making sure agents and promoters saw the opportunities and how easy it is to make these runs happen. So, and something we'd like to expand on, once the report's out, which is, hopefully in a couple of weeks.
That was what I was about to kind of
Oh, right.
allude to. So
Right.
is the report, you're hoping that will be out in a couple of weeks?
Yes, for Queenslanders, I gave our nightlife economy report into the minister in December. It's been sitting with the government waiting for them to formulate their response, and I believe it's only a matter of 2 or 3 weeks away, hopefully. So it's happening soon, and then hopefully that'll have some good stuff in there for the grassroots music industry. So watch that space.
Just finally, obviously you've been looking at, all the different great examples around the country and in New South Wales. How important is planning and regulatory reform for grassroots venues across Queensland, moving forward?
Well, yeah, I think we all know how important it is to keep their viability and keep them alive, because they do run the risk of extinction at the moment. Yeah, I think it's a global problem, unfortunately. But we've got to find out ways that we can navigate around these issues, and hopefully things return to some sort of, past, or just we reposition ourselves. I think that's what we've got to do. I mean, you look, grassroots music venues don't take merch cuts, but big venues do. Like, it seems the wrong way around to me.
Yeah.
I think we've got to rewrite the model and look at how we do that. And I think communication and collaboration is the only way we're going to get through this.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, JC.
No worries, Bron.
JC does have to jump off.
I'll stay on. Is it okay for 15 minutes? I'd like to hear Sky and those guys talk. Thanks, Bron.
Okay, so the next part is not race around the world, but it will be a bit of a race around Australia. I'm not going too far from here, though. I'm starting with Fraser. Do we have Fraser? Okay, I can't see. Oh, there he is. Hi, Fraser. We chatted on the phone.
Hi, how you going?
All right. So Fraser is from Junk Bar in Brisbane. I have an apartment just down the street. I get to go there often. They relocated to Fortitude Valley around 18 months ago. And so I'm keen, Fraser, as my first question to you, what drove that decision, and how being closer to the Valley's live music ecosystem has changed the business?
Yeah, so the junk bar, like we used to be a venue out in Ash Grove. and really the decision to move, so we relocated to New Farm, which is sort of a little bit more inner city. It was kind of like driven just by a desire to expand, and also being out in the suburbs as a venue was really challenging. Just with like restrictions, and also just where we were in Ashburn, very much of a nightlife out there. So I feel like we were sort of a little bit of a lone wolf out there. So yeah, we 18 months ago decided to relocate to New Farm. That yeah has been for the best.
Excellent. Can you just for the audience, what's your capacity for the venue?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the
Live music.
yeah, so I'm the events manager. So I sort of handle all the programming for the venue, like live music, trivia, comedy, um, sort of.
It's frozen. You have frozen. So how are you finding managing keeping the doors open at the moment with such a, because downstairs it's probably, is it 150 cap, 200?
Yeah, so we're 120 capacity, so we're sort of on the smaller side of venues. I think the way we've kind of been operating is just kind of been like, I guess, sort of making our own community out in New Farm. Like we have a lot of local bands play. A lot of bands play at our venue for the first time. They might do their first gig there. Similarly with like interstate and touring acts, um, we we always try to put local acts in there, supports. Um, yeah, and I think for us it's just been important to sort of yeah create our own community and also sort of realize where we coexist with other venues of similar size. Um, yeah, and work with other venues and in making sure that we're all contributing to Brisbane.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you've definitely, in the last 18 months provided that place for, up and coming bookers, bands to play. My son has booked bands at your venue. It's a great size for that, and you provided those opportunities for youth. What's some of the other ideas that you're looking at to kind of build those pathways? And you mentioned, getting greater connection with other venues, and kind of talking more across, the whole Brisbane, network, but also down the East Coast in Australia.
Yeah, well, I think for us it's just been important to have quite a diverse program, um, so that we're appealing to the local community in New Farm, um, as well as audiences of all ages, younger bands coming through or older acts. We recently we've recently done a few all ages shows, which has been super positive. We've gotten really good feedback from not just the bands themselves, because I feel like, and I play in a band myself, it is often really difficult to do all ages shows. Um, but yeah, I think we've just been, I guess, trying to appeal to everyone who loves music and who wants to, come out to a good place to enjoy it.
Yeah, and the all ages shows, that was part of a grant that you got from Arts Queensland, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of indicates that, that kind of grant availability specifically for those things to trial them is really important. What are some of the other grants and things that you're hoping or you're going for or you have been successful?
Yeah, totally. So the grant we were successful with was like a production grant. So we got to upgrade all of our live equipment, which was really good. Um, yeah, particularly as we're a small room. Um, Something positive that came out of that was we were able to get a backline for the venue, so that touring acts and, you know, people coming from overseas, they didn't need to worry about hiring anything. So that's been really positive, and yeah, sort of has enabled us to sort of keep doing what we're doing, but also appeal to some bigger acts.
And you're not within the Valley special entertainment footprint, and you just sit just outside of that. And there's obviously an advantage, and so it obviously still is a really compelling thing to be close to, the special entertainment precinct. Do you have trouble with noise complaints in New Farm there, or those kinds of things?
We don't really, like, we have we're on Brunswick Street, so we have commercial neighbours and residential neighbours, so we are mindful of noise complaints and keeping things within the ceiling. But mostly I find, like, because we've soundproofed the venue quite well, and we're sort of on the main area of Brunswick Street, it is like we're sort of able to do a lot of music. I think being a little outside of the valley does have its, like, implications a little bit. But I feel we've just, to adapt to that, we've just had to I guess be really, like, sort of create our own sort of community, and just be active on social media and posters and
Yeah.
keeping busy, really, just to put on the map.
Yeah, I actually think it in some ways can work in your favor, because not in, as from a safety perspective, we know that there's a lot of young people that don't love always going into the valley at a certain time, and you're just that little bit out, and it is a little bit more kind of local, and it's small and it's community. Thank you so much, Fraser. And I look forward to seeing how the venue develops over time. Okay, this
Cool.
is, like I said, a bit of a speed dating exercise. So, Sky, you're next on. Sky is from Elixir Music House up in Cairns, Gimoy. And so, Sky, just quickly, can you let us, for everyone listening, how big is your venue? What's your pitch?
So we are a micro venue. We've been operating for 9 years now. We had our 9 years in May. We are capped at 100 downstairs, which we run as Elixir Music House. And we've got upstairs as well, which is a different space called Cairns Melting Pot. And that's at about 80 capacity. Our little pitch is that we're Cairns' only independent live music venue.
No, which is great. And I've been doing a lot of work up in Cairns with Stu, and we're hoping that the new music sector plan will be coming out within the next few months for Cairns. But you were also referenced in a Guardian article over the last week, which was really highlighting the need for venues to evolve and new venue models. Can you talk a little bit about what you're exploring there?
Yeah, so we started looking at different ways to diversify quite a few years ago. We knew that we were going to have problems probably just before COVID. And then going through COVID, we ended up subletting our kitchen, and then bringing in a few different activities and stuff like that upstairs. We had also always run rehearsal spaces and workshops and things like that. But yeah, we've always definitely seen that need to be able to have the diversity for income. We are actually currently a restaurant license. So that means our land use with us is food and beverage. And and which is also actually really important to us as well. So keeping in with like what Fraser was saying before about having the youth and all ages shows, that's been really important to us as well. And being that restaurant license has enabled us to keep that aspect as well.
So you have been navigating a lot of different planning and development approvals. What approaches have helped you work through the challenges and kind of, you know, that knowledge gap? And, you know, I've spoken with lots of people, everyone, it's like you don't know what you don't know. What advice, you know, positive advice would you give for other operators embarking on a similar journey?
I can see Ant laughing there as well. I honestly, it's still so rewarding. I wouldn't change anything, to be quite honest. I am actually really grateful for the experience that I've had, because it has enabled me to find out so much information about everything that we just don't understand and realize that's involved. You know, when we just go in and we want to be part of this, you know, beautiful cultural, social experience, and, you know, have these bands and the youth and people come through and share these beautiful moments, and then you've got all of this red tape in behind you. So we had our land uses, which is actually still in actually currently being looked at and going through, because of the diversity that we are doing and still continuing to explore as well. We had reached out to multiple industry resources, which have helped us all along the way. And I would definitely say to everyone that wants to get out there and do it, definitely do it. The more the merrier. And like JC as well said, you know, it all comes in strength, and we all need to stick together and stand that ground. But there are a huge available resources, amount of resources and people that are able to actually point you in the right direction. If one person doesn't know, everyone's really super friendly, and to be able to, you know, make those connections and just reach out if you're having problems. Just, yeah, utilize everybody who's been there and done it before. And yeah, we're all here to help each other. So yeah.
That's great. I do kind of feel like it would be good to have that central point, though, where a resource that people, you know, could flick through, that could enable them to get through the planning stuff probably a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Sky. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you up.
Thanks, Bron.
In the next few months. Okay. The next person I have on my race around Australia is Cherie from Kindred Studios in Melbourne.
Hi, Bron. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, great.
That's good. We just worked out, my son's booking the Bendigo Hotel and just booked her son's first gig a couple of weeks ago.
Small world.
Small world, small world. Anyway, it's great to see you. And I am really stoked to talk to Cherie, because Kindred Studios has been operating since 2005. But it's got quite a unique kind of business model. It's obviously really established itself as a solid community venue. It is a commercial venue with a strong community focus, as I said. And so I guess my first question is, how have you balanced financial sustainability with investing in artists, original music, and that local creative community?
Yeah, so I've got a bit of a commercial background, so I kind of apply that to everything that we do there to make the venue sustainable. I mean, we prioritize artist fees, of course. We're like fortunate enough to have bands approach us. At the start, we were just booking and trying to program the room ourselves, which was tricky times, like trying to establish a reputation for the venue. But yeah, my commercial background sort of I apply like profit and loss. So we do profit and loss reports on every single event that we do, so that we can kind of analyze data and see, it influences our programming, what kind of events are working, what the community is responding to, and getting per head spends, and that sort of information, and also seasonally, how to program. So sort of trial and error and learning from your mistakes, or what works well. I also like to sort of charge the client like punters less at the bar and negotiate rates on alcohol with alcohol suppliers, things like that. There's little things that you can do to and get your margins a bit better. So that works well. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit of a history about the venue and all the different streams, the spaces and the band room that you remember you saying to me that you do keep that as a separate, to keep that viable on its own?
Yeah, so we're fortunate in some ways that we have a lot of different operations at Kindred. So we've got about 12 rehearsal rooms, a lot of private tenancies that which we try to keep creative industries in the space, because it develops this little ecosystem where people feed off of each other. So we have some film industry, some indirectly, they're not all music related, but we do have some production companies, people who do lighting for festivals and events, and music producers. We've got a lot of production suites as well. So some pretty famous bands and labels, and some radio stations. So that corporate sort of side of the business, which is still industry, but it's kind of corporate, sort of feeds into the other side of the band room. Like if we have times when it's a bit slow, we're really fortunate to be able to sort of one picks up the other. We've had a lot of infrastructure issues over the last 5 years outside of our control with roadworks and things, which has really heavily impacted the business with access, and that commercial side of the business. So we've put a lot of focus into what we could do with the band room, and put a lot of energy into that. And surprisingly enough, we never thought that that side of the business would be doing better than the commercial side, like the corporate side. So, yeah, we're super stoked with that. We're doing about 6 to 8 gigs a week now. We've got a Thursday afternoon gig series that's actually killing it at the moment, which everyone thought was the craziest idea, when I presented it, which started with a grant. Just like we've heard from a couple other people, those grants are really handy to sort of trial something you think might work, and it hits a lot of different demographics, of people that may not have access to music outside, like at night or whatever. So, yeah, we've been able to develop a lot of programs and connect with community to find out what their needs might be.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean,
Mm.
I think there's been a lot of talk for a while about bringing shows earlier so that people, whether it's in the afternoon or people leaving straight from work, can get to a show and not even go home,
Yeah.
just be through that. You also, when we chatted, raised some ideas about a live music ticket rebate, and the need for more positive public storytelling around venues and the music industry in general, because we do hear a lot of doom and gloom. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I feel that it'd be good if there was a greater understanding of door fees and where they go. I think that a public perception, I often hear, is that, or there's this bit of a stigma that the venue's a bit greedy when they're asking for $20 at the door because you're already buying a few drinks at the bar. I don't think there's a bit of a lack of understanding about, that most of the time that money is going straight to the band. They're going straight to the artists. that needs to support their families and their life and be able to create. So, campaigns around that would be great, of some sort, I think. Maybe something a bit jokey around you're paying for a cocktail, no problem, but you don't want to pay for 3-4 hours of live entertainment. It's kind of comical, really, that it's undervalued. Also with rebate, I see here in Victoria, we've had some state government and local government have introduced little programs where you can get a 50% rebate on, if you send in the receipt from a restaurant when you've, for a period of time. So they might do like a month in winter when they've got a downtime, and you would send a receipt in and get 50% back. I'd love to see that with live music and ticket prices, the ticket fee for a gig. $20 back in someone's pocket for a gig would be amazing for people, and it might inspire people to get out to see shows a little bit more if there are, obviously people do have some financial issues but still want to have access to music, and we can't always do free shows as much as we'd love to, because it's just not financially viable to keep the venues going. So
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool. And also maybe government could cut some costs here, where I sit on Music Victoria's live music venue roundtable with 10 other venues, and we chat about things and advocate for maybe cuts in local government fees and, for operating business, and also from state government with liquor licensing fees. If you're running live music, that maybe they could be waived or cut down significantly. It's not always about giving handouts, but maybe just making a few cuts here and there for us to operate a bit more efficiently.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what the vibrancy reforms in New South Wales have really started to work on. Your venue isn't a walk-by venue. People really do make a conscious decision to come. How has that shaped your programming and audience development over the years?
Yeah, it's tricky when you don't have people just walking in. We're not in a high density precinct either. We're only 10 minutes from the city, but if you go over the West Gate in Melbourne, you're just in another country or something. It's just not perceived well. And most of the activities in the northern part of Melbourne, in the northern suburbs. So we're the only live music venue dedicated with a dedicated program, programming original artists for about 20-30 Ks out west. So yeah, our programming, we keep diverse. I think it was Jacob that was speaking before was saying that he's done the same thing, and it's not always I think you want to keep your venue cool and have a nice reputation, but you've got to stick to what you think is really good quality music and keep the programming of quality, but also maybe look outside of what your personal preference is. Like, no offense, but I'm not a huge country fan, but we've been doing a heap of country gigs. They're going really well. Some genres I won't, I'm not into psytrance and I don't really want to do it. So I don't book it. But, we just got to diversify and be really conscious, I think, about keeping diversity in your programming book a heap of female artists, just keep that in check. And also, your First Nations programming and Islander programming. If you haven't had one for a while, people haven't approached you, seek a lineup out and put one on. Got to make sure that you're catering to a lot of different audiences, I think, and treat people well as well. Put on a good rider.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, put on a good rider. Thank you so much.
No worries.
All right, I am heading now to Perth, which I would love to get to myself soon. Mark, Neil from The Bird, how are you?
Hello, Bron. How are you?
Good. Let me just see you. Okay. So which is what I should have done with everyone, tell us just a little bit about your venue, your cap size. I know you've been running for 16 years. Tell us just a little bit more about your venue.
Yeah. So The Bird, it's been running for 16 years. It's a small bar, original music only venue. We're 175 capacity. We have a beautiful beer garden. We operate 7 days a week with music, 5 to 7 days a week. And we do all sorts of genres, all originals. It's a real community-focused space, and it's like right in the heart of Northbridge, which I guess is like being in the valley if you're in Brisbane or something like that.
So what's been the key to building such a strong venue that has had such longevity that is just for original music?
Really all about community-focused kind of stuff. And I kind of say that in a way of like, it's the more niche sort of aspects of the scene. Like, I think we were really lucky that when it was opened, it was kind of established as a real safe space that attracted a lot of different styles and stuff, and has continued to kind of champion more unique and niche genres. And I think that's just meant that it's become really accessible. There's always something a bit different on. Some nights it's nice, weird jazz, and other nights it'll be like the craziest thrash metal I've ever heard, and then it'll be like this ear-splitting hyper pop in the courtyard. It's just like all over the place, but because of it, it's really like become home for so many people.
And how are you finding the balance with revenue between, bar sales, tickets, grants, all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, look, it's never easy, as we all know. The owner that took over this place kind of when I joined a couple of years back, actually they've been here a lot longer now, he established another couple of businesses right next door that feed into each other, which has meant the Bird is now able to do food and has a kitchen that operates, and we are like we have a lot of revenue that comes from just the like regulars that kind of come in all the time, and being in the heart of Northbridge, you can get a few people through. Unfortunately, we've had to keep venue hire always going up, but everything goes up in price, and so like we've done a lot of fundraising. Whenever there's a grant that fits us, we try and get it, but it's hard to get grants when you're a tiny venue. So it's always a bit of a battle, but we're lucky that it is a really beloved space that has a really important community that kind of back us and just keep coming here.
Yeah, excellent. Your Northbridge and the area where the Bird is has recently become a special entertainment precinct. How important is the first special entertainment precinct in WA? How important is that for the long-term sustainability of the venue?
Yeah, I think it really helps us stay around. Every time there's talk of, they just built a huge university right next to us, and there's talk of student housing and new apartments going really close by. And when those kind of things happen, you start to fear noise restrictions and stuff like that. So having the special precinct kind of does mean that we are we're being looked after, that we are safe as a venue, and that the government is supportive of us, which is really nice.
Excellent. Any final comments?
The weirder the music, the better.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. We're about to head to Wollongong. We've got Nathan from LaLaLas.
Hi, Bron. Hello, everybody.
Hello. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I am good. LaLaLas opened in 2019, just months before COVID. Tell us a little bit about the venue and also looking back, what's been the biggest lessons for sustaining the venue over such a challenging period?
Yeah, thank you. We're a small venue in Wollongong CBD. We're about 170 cap upstairs in the band room, and we have a sort of a 30 cap sort of dive bar downstairs. We're open 6 days a week. We do original live music 5 nights of the week, and trivia on the other night, which is tonight. We opened in November 2019. Really took a chance, and I thought, as long as nothing goes wrong, it will be fine. And then, I guess the 4 months later, the sort of world stopped. So the amount of things that I've learned, I actually am not even sure, but I guess as a lot of people here would know, is running a live music venue, you learn a lot of things that you don't really know are going to be a part of the gig, and cleaning, sort of fixing toilets and dishwashers, and trying to understand things about town planning and building regulations and all those things. But I think that one of the greatest lessons I probably can take away from that is being able to collaborate with the industry and how learn from other like-minded bars and venues that everybody's doing going through the same problems, but everybody was kind of in the game to do for the same reasons, which was really heartening. And I think things like this is a really good way for people to get together to keep on fighting the good fight.
Yeah, for sure. New South Wales has introduced a bunch of vibrancy reforms and initiatives such as the upfront grants and liquor license rebates and funding for councils to get all the planning work done for special entertainment precincts. From your perspective, which ones have been the biggest practical difference for venue operators? And I know it's early days there too.
Yeah, the obvious one. There's a fair bit of learnings to be done. There's a lot of really good things that have happened out of the vibrancy reforms. We're still learning a little bit what we can do with all of those tools, but the simple ones were like the incentives to put on live music to reduce your liquor licensing fees. As we all know, that everything's getting more expensive, so any reductions in bills are welcomed. I think we don't have any problems with noise complaints as of yet, but I think a good initiative is that New South Wales have put in that you need 2 people to complain before it's taken seriously. And it also, I think the practical measure is that you need to have gone to the venue and asked them to turn it down, because I think that sometimes can be sorted pretty quickly of just either turning it down or closing a window. There's a bit of common sense in that regard. And yeah, there have been a lot of fantastic grants that we've been able to be a part of from the state government, which have been able to improve our audio and lighting and our ventilation and sound installation.
Yeah. Are you a part of one of the uptown groups that got funded in Wollongong?
And yes, I am a part of the Globe Lane District, which has been another great initiative that the team 24 Hours of New South Wales has done, which is also fantastic.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, the Uptown grant funding enables precincts to bring business owners, creatives, general public together within that precinct. And is it between 100 and 200K match funding to help?
Correct. Yeah. So that was that's right. For depending on which level, I guess, or what stage you are a part of that program, I think the initial funding is to put in the infrastructure for that district and have those tools to be able to market the district as a whole before, and the idea of this is to sort of lay the foundations for things to invite external sponsorships and other investments from other areas, and also just to put on cool multi-venue events and also to be able to take advantage of public domain areas as well.
Yeah, exactly. And another one of the initiatives is the Purple Flag initiative, which is all about safety. And how have you been involved with that? And has Wollongong been doing that as well?
That's an interesting one, Bron. I think that they've initially Wollongong wasn't eligible for the Purple Flag because we have our transport issues. But my understanding is that is being revisited for regional areas because I think some of the goalposts they had were just I think we said we'd like another train, please, and they said you can't have that. So then we've got to try and change that around. But there's some really exciting things in regards to that, and that's also with the special entertainment precinct stuff, which my understanding Wollongong Council have made some inquiries of how that they can get that set up, and we'll look forward to working with them. And that's probably one of those other great things about where, I'm on the board of the Live Music Venue Alliance in New South Wales, and that's been able to give us a little bit of a round table to other government. And it's also been a good opportunity to link government because it all gets a little bit confusing with policing and local council and state government, and trying to get a bit of understanding of how they all work and how we're going to work together. And because the promising thing is from all three levels of government, it seems to be that they want live music venues, grassroots venues to exist. So it's just fantastic that we're sort of all talking to each other.
Yeah, exactly. And they've got a whole lot of different joined up policy things that are not just specifically about live music, but they help, kind of create that ecosystem. It's safety, it's transport, it's, other businesses, and it's putting investment into that.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Absolutely.
so much, Nathan.
Pleasure.
Last deep dive is going to involve, it's a Sunny Coast deep dive. The Sunny Coast is one of Australia's fastest growing regions, but we've had an awful lot of venues shut down recently, and we've had a lot of people who have been really having a go and trying to navigate either within special entertainment precinct that we have in Nambour and outside of that. And so I have Liam here from the Norton Music Factory, and I have Rusty from the precinct, and I have Dale here from the Nook. And this is all kind of funny because we're looking at each other, but you guys aren't. And so what I'd love, first of all, is for you just to introduce yourself, your venue, its capacity, what you do, and what you're most proud of about what you're trying to develop here on the coast.
I'll go first. Hi, Liam, Norton Music Factory. We're based in Caloundra, Sunshine Coast. We've capped our venue at 500. We can technically hold more, but we try not to cram people in like sardines. For us, our venue started by accident. It was a guitar workshop. That's how it started. That's what Norton Music Factory is. From there, I'm also an electrical contractor. We threw a Christmas party for my work, and then that, on the back end of COVID, turned into my mates wanted to do a film clip. We were going to build a drum riser. That turned into a stage. And then over the last 5 years, it's evolved to what it is today. Probably one of the proudest things I would say is the community we've helped nourish. We try our best to support up-and-coming grassroots bands. In this environment, it's not always possible. You'll see a lot of venues actually programming, tribute shows, and that will unfortunately, sometimes those shows are the ones that actually pay the bills. Keep the doors open so then you can put on the next grassroots show or original show. The feedback we get from people who come often is about, do you guys realise, what you mean to this community and stuff like that. So if there's ever any dark moments and stuff where you might wonder, oh man, I must be crazy doing this, it's those moments that, you just remember those and what it means to you, because we're all passionate people. And those moments are the ones that allow you to come up with another crazy idea that you're going to try next week.
Thank you. All right, Rusty.
Thanks, Bron. My name's Rusty, and I'm the co-owner of the Presynct venue and bar in Nambour. I own doing it with my daughter, Cherry, who couldn't be with us today, but because she's actually at the venue doing choir with Andrea Kerwin. We do a rainbow choir there on Tuesday afternoons and evenings. We started in 2023, and it's a purpose-built 100-capacity boutique, very eclectic style venue, and we program, like some of the other people have spoken before, really diverse music from psytrance to opera. So it's never a dull moment at the venue. Our proudest moment, I guess, similar to what Liam has just said, is the community that we are building. And the venue kind of, I sort of see it like it was a baby, and we've had this baby, we've put it down on the ground and we've let it crawl into the directions it needs to go, and it's kind of formed what it needs to be. It's shaped itself from what the community has wanted, which is amazing. And yeah, I think
that's awesome. Thank you. All right, Dale.
Yeah, I'm Dale from the Nook. Our venue is super micro, I guess. We've got a capacity of 40, but we're looking at expanding that up to 80. We pretty well concentrate on grassroots music, acoustic, so folk, blues, country, things like that. And we only have sort of 2, maximum of 3 events a week, but always original, and lots of touring artists, quite a few local artists as well.
Yeah, excellent. So, I mean, I think a lot of the distinction between places too is that a lot of, venues, if you're down in Brisbane, they've already got their DAs for things that then, when places change over, they're not having to go through all of that. And if you're up on the coast, there's not a lot of those places that had those provisions for, for bars, or like, I always remember when the Soul Bar started on Ocean Street, the reason Dimmy chose that building was because it was a strip joint and it had a 3 a.m. license. And there's not a lot of those around. So for you guys starting these businesses, you've had to navigate, this planning and regulatory process that isn't necessarily kind of fit for purpose. And I think it was you, Dale, that said you don't know what you don't know. So what's been the biggest challenge getting your venues established? I know you've all got different stories, but just in a constructive way, what are some of those things, and what's some of the best way that we could, kind of proactively come together and get some changes made and resources potentially to help other people set up live music venues on the coast?
Do you want to go first, Liam? I think we need to get Sunshine Coast Council to really look at things and make some serious changes. If I want to put the elephant in the room right out there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So in terms of that, the regulation, and what's one thing that do you think, and I know that we have talked about and Grant has talked about, just with some of the definitions of what a bar is, what a theatre is, some of those things I think
well, Bron, I think if we're looking at the Nambour Special Entertainment Precinct, which is obviously where we're located and we're the first venue in that space, 2 years on, there are no more venues opened up there, and there should be. The only accepted development in that area is a bar. Now, to me, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You have a special entertainment precinct, but you have to go through all this rigmarole to actually do anything but a bar. So why have it?
Yeah.
And not only that, where was the risk assessment done over transport? There is no transport to get in and out of the special entertainment precinct. There's no incentive for investors to come in and build another venue. So we are the one and only venue, and we have been doing it on our own there for 2 years now, and it's nothing's changed.
And just for context for everyone out and everyone listening, special entertainment precincts or entertainment precincts across the country are all set up in different ways, and so they're not the same. So, and the distinction in Queensland and in Nambour was that there's none of that joined up initiatives like what we've seen in New South Wales to help support local government to actually, have all the different components that they need to be able to make these really viable. Yeah. So it's frustrating, and you've been doing a lot of the ground up work there.
Well, to add to that, I think I'm interested to see what comes of the report JC is going to put out. Because I think one of our challenges here is, and I use the Soul Bar for example, when it went down, everyone was devastated. But what happened before that, leading up to that? Why does it have to wait for something like that, an institution on the coast, to come down before people, stand up and pay attention? And, as an example from that case, there was a lot of passionate people in the room. There was a lot of fire in the room. It's a great discussion, but here we are, how many months later? I'm not sure what's come of it.
Yeah.
So there's potentially a lot of talk going on around the place, but I think it's time for action of some sort. And it appears that it seems to be left up to the venue owners to be the ones to force that change. And that's a challenge when we're doing probably 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the place running.
Yeah, exactly. And I think some of the things that you have all talked to me about also is just having that time to be able to collaborate together and to, like a lot of the other panelists, speak more positively about, if we keep hearing all of this about the sector, it's not helping the sector move forward.
Did you want to say?
Well, the difficulties I've had is basically when you start a venue, particularly from my background, I come from a construction background, and again, you don't know what you don't know, and so I just started doing it, and by the time I realised all the things I didn't know, I was so far along it that I've just got to now keep going, really, and it's the whole project ends up a hell of a lot more expensive than what I thought. Because a lot of the rules and the regulations, they don't really overlay very well at all, like the council material change of use laws with the building codes. You've got to comply with them all, but if you actually look at them in a logical sense, it's ridiculous, some of the things you've got to comply with. You've got exemption, for instance, the Nook is getting an exemption. We don't have to put a lift in because I don't own the building and the venue's under 200 square meters, so we don't have to put a lift. So people in a wheelchair can't get to the Nook, but everything we build inside has to be wheelchair accessible. And if we don't do that, then we can get a consultant to write a report on why we don't have to do that, but that costs several $1,000s for each report for each incidence. And to me, that's pretty ridiculous. I mean, I'd love to build a fully accessible venue, but the reality is where I bought these two things, it's just impossible to do. And so you would think that the exemption would apply throughout the whole building.
Yeah.
But and that's just one example. There's so many examples of that. And so you're trying to comply with three separate regulatory bodies, being the council, the building code, and liquor licensing, and they just don't overlay neatly. They barely overlay at all.
It's kind of like everything triggers each other, hey?
Yeah, exactly. And, like with material change of use, I've either got to be a bar or a theatre, but I'm not really either. I'm a music venue, and, they're different to a bar and a theatre. And if I'm going to apply my venue to the legal letter of the law, I've got no agility. We're going to be a theatre, which means we have to bring most of our income from ticket sales, not from alcohol sales. I don't believe anyone polices that, but so what's the point in the rule anyway?
No,
you know
exactly,
what I mean? I should be able to dance between the two as required to keep my business running. But so it's those things that I find frustrating. I mean, that's the bureaucracy that I've been dealt and that I've got to deal with. So there's not much point whinging about it, but I feel like it could be done a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you look at some of the other people that have been talking, and they're talking about quite successful areas,
Yeah.
it sounds like there's a lot of support from their, government and council. And I just feel
And there's a lot of precedent over
Yeah.
time. You guys are kind of, the early adopters, trying to do things, on the coast. And I work across and have worked across Australia, writing music sector plans and looking at music sector planning regulation. And it is so, these issues are happening around Australia, but there is a particular kind of lack of joined up policy and planning that we do notice, particularly across Queensland and on the sunny coast, that don't require a lot of investment necessarily. But, listen, we'll all keep fighting the good fight. I want to thank everyone. We've run out of time and this could go on and on and on. We have done a great trip race around the country. Thanks to everyone who is, bringing so much joy to so many people and, keeping our local communities alive. And thanks to the ALMBC.
Thank you, Bron. And thank you for doing such an amazing job of facilitating such a huge panel. And thanks to all of the speakers involved. There are a couple more questions in the chat, and I'm sure there's questions in the room as well. We'll do the best we can to answer some of those when we do our wrap up. So this has been recorded, will be online in the next day or so. Thank you so much for being part of it, and stick around if you're here in person for the Q Music Industry Connect session. Thank you to the J and for Noosa Council for having us here as well. Thanks, Rudy. See you soon.